Changes in criminal and civil laws boost UAE's ambitious vision. The UAE government recently introduced sweeping changes to the civil and criminal laws governing various matters such as consumption of alcohol, consensual sex, cohabitation, inheritance, among other changes. These changes are in line with the UAE's aim to protect women's rights, reform its laws to be more progressive, and attract skilled and talented individuals to work and live in the UAE and to boost its foreign investment. In the following points, I shall try to go through the part of these changes. 1. A significant amendment to the UAE Penal Code was to decriminalize consumption of alcohol by adults in licensed places or in their own private property. Whereas consumption of alcohol is legal, as per the new amendments to the federal criminal law, as long as it is from a licensed place and you do not drive under the influence of alcohol, and you do not act indecent in public while you are drunk. However, it is important to bear in mind that although consumption of alcohol is not a crime under the federal laws, but still each emirate has the discretion to regulate the consumption and trading of alcohol within the emirate. 2. The other significant change to the criminal law was by amending Article 356 of the UAE Penal Code to allow consensual sex between adults as long as the persons are not under 14 years of age or they do not have the mental capacity to give consent. As a result of these changes, unmarried couples may live in cohabitation as long as they're consenting adults. These changes to the federal criminal laws are aimed to boost the living standard in the UAE and are consistent with the UAE's aim to promote individual freedom with reasonable restrictions. 3. Some more changes to the UAE criminal law were made with regard to safeguarding people from public harassment by amending Article 360 of the UAE Penal Code to strictly penalize any person committing an obscene act against another person. One progressive change boosting gender equality is that there is no differentiation between a male or female committing an obscene act. 4. One more key change to the criminal law was by amending the treatment given to honor crimes, such as the crime committed by one spouse against another in heat of passion upon finding his/her spouse in an adulterous situation. Previously, such crimes of passion received temporary imprisonment. However, with the recent changes, such offenses shall be treated as murder or assault, depending on the gravity of the harm. 5. Additional amendments to the criminal law include amending Article 53 of the UAE Penal Code, which states that if an act is done in good faith, then such an act shall not be considered as a crime. For example, if a person is committing an act out of good intention but unintentionally hurts the person, then his action may not be subject to a punishable offense under the new law. This article could help to support doctors who might face criminal charges of malpractice especially. As per this article, any act in general which leads to the death or harm shall not be considered as a crime if it was done out of necessity with good faith. This may apply to doctors if they deal with emergency cases. 6. The new changes to the criminal law also amended Article 335 of the UAE Penal Code to give discretion to the courts to refer a person who attempted to commit suicide to a treatment facility instead of punishing them. The aim of this amendment is to reform the individual and reintegrate them into the society. 7. Since the UAE has a lot of foreign investors who could face death in some sad incidents, previously under UAE law we could apply the law of the deceased nationality only if it did not contradict with the Islamic principles in distribution of assets of the deceased. However, recently Article 17(1) of the UAE Civil Transactions Law was amended to apply the law of the country to which the deceased belonged to at the time of death, regardless of the restriction mentioned in the UAE laws. Moreover, if the deceased had a valid and registered will, then the heirs may request the court to execute the will regardless of the restrictions which we have in Islamic principles. For example, under Islamic principles, the wills shall not be given to one of the heirs and shall not be given in excess of 1/3 of the assets. But application of the foreign law could be used to remove these restrictions. 8. Previously, deportation was mandatory in cybercrimes and any crime of honor, and because of that, we found some cases of defamation through WhatsApp to be punishable by deportation, as the WhatsApp is an online application under the cybercrime law. Although if the same content has been sent by SMS, the punishment could include fine and potential deportation, unlike the mandatory deportation if the message was sent through WhatsApp. But under the new laws, the deportation in WhatsApp defamation is not mandatory anymore and could be only applied if the judge finds it necessary to apply it. On the other hand, Acts like showing middle finger, which was considered as a part of the personal rights and as an act of the freedom of expression in other countries, was punishable in the UAE with mandatory deportation, as it is classified as a crime of honor. However, under the new laws, and since the mandatory deportation does not exist for this crime anymore, and it's up to the discretionary power of the court on whether or not to apply it, the new changes to the law gave the accused a chance to explain the history behind the act, personal history, and personal circumstances, which, if it has been accepted by the judge, could lead to a judgment of fine without deportation. Most recently, it has been noticed that some court orders refused to consider WhatsApp defamation as a cybercrime at all, and they considered it with the same effect of SMS, since both of them shall be seen only by the sender and receiver. These court orders indicated that since the WhatsApp messages are not seen usually by anybody except the receiver, then there's no need to deal with it by the same strict standard punishment as provided for cybercrimes. The given information is a short summary as part of the latest changes in the UAE criminal laws and cybercrimes laws and civil laws. These changes are in sync with the UAE's ambitious vision to be a worldwide example of tolerance. There are still more significant changes to discuss about it in our future videos. For more of our latest updates, like and subscribe to this channel.